Alright y'all, have you ever pulled up next to a car that looks like it can absolutely gap you within half a second, but when they step on the pedal, they go absolutely nowhere? Well, in today's video, we're going over 10 cars that look fast, but are actually slow. Be sure to stick around for the top 5. They'll definitely surprise you. And starting off the list, at number 10, we have the High Schooler Special, the Scion TC. All jokes aside, the TC is definitely on the more underrated side, which is reasonable since Scion is a discontinued brand. However, the TC is an amazing looking car. It definitely has a sporty look to it. But if we look under the hood, we'll only see a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine that only makes a small 161 horsepower. However, since it does have Toyota's legendary reliability and the option for a 5-speed manual transmission, this car definitely has some potential to be a fun little daily. Number 9 goes to the Honda CRZ. The CRZ was weird, to say the least. It was only produced from 2011 to 2016. And it's arguable that it was so short-lived because it wasn't as fast as it looked. The CRZ was advertised as a sport compact hybrid car, but it wasn't sporty at all. It came with a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine that produced 113 to 122 horsepower. That's stupidly slow for something that looks so incredible. Taking number 8 is the 3rd Gen Camaro. The 3rd Gen Camaro is just a beauty. I mean, just look at it. The numbers the engine produced are mediocre, but before we start rating my comments, let me point out, it was produced from the early 80s to the early 90s. I wanted to specifically call out the Iron Duke Camaro, which is named after the Iron Duke engine line. The Iron Duke was arguably the worst engine GM ever made. I mean, was it reliable? Sure, but that's as far as it goes. The power it made was horrible, and it was only around for 2 years before being discontinued. Only making around 90 horsepower, it's pretty clear to see why. But let that sink in for a minute. A Camaro that only makes 90 horsepower. Alright, number 7 goes to the Hyundai Veloster. I don't know if you guys see it, but something about this just screams speed. I will say though, the turbocharged version of the 1.6 liter 4-cylinder it has, introduced in 2012, makes a respectable 201 horsepower, which is about average for today's standards. Unfortunately, the non-turbocharged engine makes around 132 to 147 horsepower. It's such a cool design though. Alright, and just barely missing the top 5, at number 6, we have the Honda Del Sol. Its design is timeless, and since it's a Honda, its potential is almost limitless. However, since we're specifically talking about stock form, it only makes 106 to 160 horsepower, powered by a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine with VTEC. It's such a cool little car though. Like, it's no wonder that you see these as track cars all the time. Alright, now getting to the top 5, we have an enthusiast favorite, the triplets. In fact, they're so popular some even go as far as calling them the new Miatas. They come with a 2.0-liter naturally aspirated flat 4 engine that makes 200 horsepower. That's not exactly horrible, but for the way it's designed, you'd expect a little more, right? Although its power is moderate, its handling makes up more than enough for that, making the BRZ a really fun car to daily drive. Alright, just barely skipping the top 3, we have the 7th Gen Toyota Celica at number 4. Now, the Celica is an absolute gem for an early 2000s design. In fact, I'm gonna stop talking for a second and let you admire it. Alright, getting back on track, the 7th Gen Celica comes with a 1.8 liter and produces anywhere from 140 to 180 horsepower, which is not bad at all. It's just, it seems a lot faster from the outside. This is definitely a quick little car. Alright, starting us off at the top 3, we have the movie star, the DeLorean. The DeLorean was only produced for such a short amount of time. It's crazy how a car from the 90s can look so modern. But it only produced 130 horsepower. Yeah, you heard me correctly. This $50,000 of a car only makes 130 horsepower. Don't get me wrong though, it's still such a cool car and it's one of my favorites. Alright, number 2 might get a bit debatable, but the Mazda Miata. The Mazda Miata looks a lot faster than it actually is. Well, at least the second and fourth gen do. The second gen only made around 140 horsepower, and the fourth gen makes around 181 horsepower. That's not the greatest. Are Miatas quick and fun to whip around? For sure. They just aren't that fast. Not stock, at least. At number 1, I have the whole reason you clicked on this video in the first place. But just before I talk about the legendary MR2, I just want to take a second of your time to say, if you've enjoyed the video so far, make sure to go down below and show some support. Anyways, without further ado, number 1, the Toyota MR2. The Toyota MR2 is a classic among JDM vehicles. It's a sleek design paired up with the famous pop-up headlights. In fact, I want you to think of one person who doesn't like the MR2 for appearance-based reasons. You can. The non-turbo MR2 comes with a 2.2 liter that makes around 130 horsepower. However, if we're talking about that turbocharged MR2, that's a whole other story. That thing makes 200 horsepower straight to the rear wheels. Anyways, with that being said, this wraps up the video. Make sure to leave some comments behind before you leave. I love reading about what you guys have to say. And with all that being said, thank you and stay tuned.